week we are talking about how to create citations using Word. Even if your final project does not require citations, you'll probably need to use them at some point in your life, either at work or in another class. Before we begin, I want to clarify some terminology. A bibliography is a list of all books, articles, websites that you read, consulted during research. This does not only include works you cite directly, it also just includes works that you consulted but didn't necessarily reference in the text. A works cited page, on the other hand, is a list only of works that you cite in the document. So if we go into the References ribbon, click this button here, these automated features, it distinguishes between bibliography and works cited. We'll get to how to generate one later, but I just wanted you to understand the differences in terminology before I begin. So, we're in the Reference tab. As I'll mention in the email I send out for this week, I'm asking for the sake of consistency that we all work in APA style for the remainder of this class. If you're unfamiliar with APA citations, I'll be emailing a link to a free resource to help you out. That link will also be on the class website. If you're still confused, please come talk to me or meet with a tutor at one of the ACC Learning Labs. Okay, so again, we're in the References button. In the Citations and Bibliography section, you'll see this little Style button. It has a drop-down menu with a list of common citation styles, including Chicago, IEEE for engineers, MLA, ISO for certain scientific formats. But as I said, we want to use APA in this class. There's actually not much difference between the 5th and the 6th, but let's just select 6th so we have it the most current. So what this means is that as we build our citations, Word will know how to format exactly the way it's supposed to be. What's important is to have the citation style you want selected before you start working so you don't have to go back and fix it later. So back in the day, you used to have to build your whole bibliography or works cited from scratch, type in all the citations by hand, etc. In the early 2000s, third-party services started emerging that would manage your citations for you. And a lot of these are still around, but now Word has this feature built in. What's great about using the Word feature is that if you're going to be doing a lot of your writing and documenting in Word, not only is Word going to do the formatting correctly for you, but it's also going to store your citations in your computer, so that way if you need to reuse one for another project, it'll be there waiting for you. You don't need to regenerate the document. So start with some pre-written material you want to cite. I'm just using an excerpt from my notes for this class. There's not a lot to cite. I'll be doing some fake citations, whatever. So you could do a quotation, a paraphrase, anything that needs to be noted. Click at the end of the source you want to cite. Then click Insert Citation. Now Word gives you two options, New Source or New Placeholder. Placeholder is what you use if you know something needs to be cited, but you don't know, you don't have the complete information. So the dialog box will pop up with a tag, placeholder 1, or you could do something more specific. Hit OK. And there will be this placeholder 1 here. And we'll get on how to edit that later. The point is you'll know to come back to this later. Meanwhile, add new source, insert citation, add new source. Now we can go to, so it'll create this create source. I'm not giving real titles. And so you flip between book, journal article, book chapter, periodical, conference proceeding, report. And these are all, and if you're in MLA, it'll actually ask for different things. What it's asking here, you can see bibliography fields for APA 6th edition. If we had MLA set as our style, it would change it. And then there's a little tag name. So it's the first 3 letters of the author's last name and the last 2 digits of the year. You could type in your own tag, but this is a pretty useful one. So, okay. Now Word has created an in-text citation for your source. So we have that, but we don't have a bibliography or a works cited page yet. So what do? Bibliography? We'll do a bibliography today, not a works cited. Oh, I see what I did. Let's undo that. So my cursor, if you'll remember, was here, so it dropped the bibliography in here. So make sure your cursor's at the end of your document, because it will drop that bibliography in wherever. I would actually insert a page break or section break, and then generate my bibliography. So we just have that one source for now. We can do that later. Manage, let's see. Okay, now to edit a placeholder citation, click Edit Source. And we're going to have a book. And we'll do a corporate author this time. I'm just making things up. Again, this is all just filler. Tag name is placeholder 1. Let's see. Yeah, and now I clicked in the tag name and it changed it from placeholder to this author. It's great. Now it's not in the bibliography yet, but we'll get to that in a second. You can also edit your source. Wait, sorry. I clicked Edit Source. You can also edit your citation. You can add things in like the number of pages or hide the author or the year of the title. Keep in mind, however, that doing so can mess up the style guide requirements that Word is already managing for you in the predetermined style. So I would actually recommend not editing your editing the citation itself too much, because Word actually knows what it's doing, and you can make things harder on yourself. Now, say you want to search for another source you've used on another project that you want to use again. Click Manage Sources. So now it brings up this Source Manager dialog box, where you can, if you have a long list and don't want to scroll, you can search by author, keyword, title. You can also sort by tag, title, and year. So if you want all your 2012s to come up, you can. Over here, we've got the current list of citations I've created in the document. We also have 3 more. And then here's the master list of all the citations I've created in total. So we're going to select this, copy it. So now it's in the current list. Close. Okay. And now let's move on to footnotes and endnotes. Footnotes and endnotes serve 2 purposes. The first is to include parenthetical information. Hold on. Okay. So notice this is the current list, but it's not showing up. It's showing up as a citation. It's not showing up in the text yet. We'll get to that. Sorry. Anyway, to jump back. Footnotes and endnotes serve 2 purposes. The first one is to include like some sort of parenthetical or background information. Might be useful to your reader. The other purpose is to cite a source without taking up space in the main content. So you notice here and here your sources are in the content itself. You could also put in a footnote and put the source in there. So a footnote goes at the bottom of the page, and endnote goes at the end of a document. Please note that footnotes and endnotes are not replacements for a bibliography. If you use for citations in your final project, please include a bibliography as well. Anyway, so as we did with the bibliography, click the end of the sentence where you want your footnote to appear. Then go over to the footnote section insert footnote. So you can just type in your background text, or if you want to insert a citation, you do insert footnote, insert citation. Now here, so remember when I went into that manage sources box and it didn't, the citation didn't show up in the document, but it showed up in this master list of citations. So I'm going to select that, and now that's in that footnote, and I didn't have to go and type it all up. I just pulled it up in manage sources, put it in the list. The check mark means it's currently in the document. And when I wanted to insert it, I did. So that's how that worked. And then endnotes, again, are pretty much the same thing. Click on where you want to include it. Insert endnote. Type in what you want or add your citation, and you're good to go. Now there is some footnote and endnote formatting that you can use. End of section versus end of document, you'll need to insert a section break before you, to make this one work. But really, at the end of a document. The only reason you'd have an endnote at the end of it is if you're doing some really heavily chapter-based stuff in a long document and it's too much, it would create too long of a list at the very end of the document. You can also decide if you want letters, Roman numerals, lowercase, uppercase, or if you want other symbols. So let's change our format for our footnote and endnote to these symbols. You could also insert a custom mark. You can decide where you want to start. Continuous or restart with each section. That's pretty important. If you're doing like just one report or something, continuous should be fine. If you have a lot of chapter breaks, if you're doing something long with lots of chapters, you're going to want to restart each section. So we click apply. And now my endnote, it has this asterisk here. But the footnotes don't, because we only changed our endnote settings. Keep that in mind. Show notes. We can only view footnotes and endnotes. We can't view footnotes and endnotes at the same time. Let's view the footnote area. So it takes you to that. And here you hit this next footnote and can navigate between them. All right. So now, as you can see, we've added a couple of sources, but our bibliography only has this one in it because we created the bibliography before we added the sources. As was the case in index and table of contents, click into the bibliography, update citations, hit that update, and now all of the citations I added have magically, well, not magically, but they have appeared. You can also access this button from within a citation itself. Convert citation to static text, you can do that if you want, but then it won't automatically update in your bibliography. So generally, that's not one that's recommended. And that's really it. That's how we manage our citations. So again, if you have questions, please come talk to me. If not, have a good week.